What's going on, everybody? My name is Andrew Oliva and I love to review movies. If you haven't already, please click the like button and hit subscribe. It helps me out so much. November is over and I saw a total of 10 movies this month, and I'm going to rank them. In last place is unfortunately Disenchanted. This was a sequel that I was intrigued by. I'm a huge fan of the original Enchanted, and I was concerned that they weren't going to be able to recapture the magic of the original film. And unfortunately, that is the case with Disenchanted. Amy Adams does a fantastic job at recapturing the charm of Giselle, and all the other supporting cast members do a fantastic job too. But the biggest problem here is the messy script and just the weird plot that they chose for this movie. I really wasn't on board. It just really dragged for me. If I'm not on board with the plot, I'm not going to have a fun time watching the movie. And unfortunately, that's the case with this movie. The jokes didn't land for me. Whenever they go into the animation parts of the movie, I found the animation to be really good. And there are some songs in this movie that are really good. And there are a lot more musical numbers in this movie than the first movie. But unfortunately, I don't think any of them are better. There's one or two standout songs, but that's really it. And I don't find myself re-listening to those songs like I do with other movies. So unfortunately, Disenchanted was a big disappointment. That's why it's on the bottom of the list. Up next is My Policeman. Now, I was really excited for this movie when I saw the trailer. Then I heard some early buzz about the movie that it wasn't great. And I was mainly excited for it because of Harry Styles. I'm a huge fan. And to be honest, his acting in Don't Worry Darling, which came out a couple months ago, wasn't awful in my opinion. I thought he did a good job at holding his own in the movie. And he certainly is better in this movie. There are a few spots where his acting does kind of, it shows a little bit. But I think he did a great job for what it's worth. But the problem with this movie is the weird structure they decided to tell the story in. And that we're jumping from the future in the past in this really weird way. It's not that I didn't hate it. It just felt weird. And I just wasn't on board with the way they decided to tell this story. And the other big issue with this movie is the characters, and that they really don't explain why characters do certain things in this movie. We never really explore in depth what characters are thinking. They just do things, and that's basically what the movie is. It's just characters just doing things, and you're just along for the ride with some drama thrown in. And this movie had potential, but it just needed a tighter script, more character development, and I wasn't on board with the story structure. That's why it's on the bottom of the list. Up next is Spirited. Now, I saw this movie a couple of days ago in theaters, and for what it's worth, it's a charming movie. It's a fun little Christmas movie. Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds have amazing chemistry, and I thought they were really good in the movie. It has some really good show-stopping musical numbers, which I really wasn't expecting. But at the end of the day, it's a really messy movie, especially in the first and second act. There's a lot to this movie. There's a lot of moving parts, and especially the first and second act, it's really convoluted, and there's a lot of things happening. By the end of the movie, I was on board. I thought everything, the way they closed it, I thought it was really good. But it was everything getting to that. The first part, the beginning of the movie is cram-packed with a whole bunch of musical numbers, and I wish they would have spread them out more evenly, or even cut a few songs that I don't think were necessary. Even though I hate saying that because I love musicals, but I do think it hurt the story this time, having that much musical numbers. Overall, it's a charming movie. I'd say watch it for Christmas. You'll have a fun time. I'm not in a rush to rewatch it anytime soon, but for what it's worth, I had a fun time. Up next is Enola Holmes 2. Now, I wasn't a fan of the first Enola Holmes. I know a lot of people liked it. I just didn't get on board with it. I felt like the movie felt unfinished for me, and that has to do with all the cliffhangers it had. I just didn't feel satisfied with the first Enola Holmes, and thankfully, Enola Holmes 2 is a big improvement on the first film. I found the second one to be more fun, more charming, and to have it moved at a better pace than the first movie. Millie Bobby Brown is fantastic as Enola, and it was nice to see more Henry Cavill in this movie as Sherlock. I think he's fantastic casting choice as Sherlock. He does a fantastic job, and it was really cool to see him more in this role in this movie. And I had a fun time watching it. Now it's a little messy at times, and the Netflix, like, I feel like every Netflix original movie has that same feel to it, and you definitely feel that in this movie. It feels like a Netflix movie. And the story is choppy at times, and I really wasn't fully on board with the way they decided to do certain things within the story. I found the villain to be not that satisfying. It was a little underwhelming, to be honest. I'm excited for a third one. If they do a third one, I'll be on board. I'll watch it. Overall, this was a better movie than the first one, and I had fun watching it. But it's not a perfect movie by all means. But if you like the first Enola Holmes, I'd say definitely give this one a watch. It was a nice surprise. Up next is My Father's Dragon. Now, this movie flew under my radar till like a week ago when I finally watched it. And I planned on watching it a little bit earlier, but I don't know, it just didn't intrigue me. And I saw some reviews for it saying it was charming, so I decided to give it a watch. And it's a nice little movie for kids. Now, I'm not going to say I'm going to rewatch this a lot. It's a fun little adventure movie. The animation is very simplistic. I don't want to say the animation is bad, because it's certainly not, but it is a very simple style of animation, which I think was on purpose to fit. I think this is based off of a children's book or whatever, so that could be why they chose the animation style. But it's beautiful. It's just so simple. There are some shots in the movie that are really good, and I found the story to be surprisingly really engaging. The adventure that we're on with these two characters, I found it to be really fun. The voice acting for the two characters, Jacob Tremblay and Gaten Matarazzo, are really good. And overall, the movie, I see kids enjoying this movie and loving it, and I can see a couple parents like engaging with the movie as well, but it's not really one that stands out on top of animated movies. Like there are definitely better animation movies you can watch, but I liked the attempt of this movie, and I found myself really enjoying it. It's just I'm not going to rewatch it often, but I appreciate it for what it was, and I think children are going to love this movie. Up next is Stutz. This is a Netflix documentary directed by Jonah Hill, and it's about Jonah Hill's therapist. And I'm not usually the biggest fan of documentaries. I'll watch them, but Stutz surprised me. It's very emotional. We go in depth with both Jonah Hill's therapist and Jonah Hill himself, and I found that it was really heartwarming and just really emotional by the end. And overall, I'd say give it a watch. If you're a fan of documentaries, if you're not a fan of documentaries, still I'd say give it a watch. You'll probably find something to love in this movie. But yeah, I had a good time watching it. In fourth place is Weird, the Al Yankovic Story. Now, I was not sure what to expect for this movie. I thought this was going to be a serious biopic of Weird Al Yankovic's life. That is not what this movie is at all. This is basically a parody of the biopic genre, and once I was on board with that, once I figured out what the tone of this movie was going to be, I loved it from start to finish. Daniel Radcliffe brings a fantastic energy to Al Yankovic's life that is needed when portraying Al Yankovic, and I thought it surprisingly has a really strong story for a parody movie, and it's hilarious at times, but it's also pretty emotional at times, and it's definitely a movie I'd recommend if you haven't checked it out yet. It's on Roku TV, I think, and yeah, definitely give it a watch. It's definitely one of the biggest surprises of the year for me. In my number 3 spot is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Now, I went back and forth with this in my number 2, but I put this on 3rd place just because of the little story issues, the little subplots in the middle of the movie, which I don't think were needed at all. But overall, Wakanda Forever was a fantastic close to Phase 4, and I enjoyed almost every single second of this movie. They did an amazing job at honoring Chadwick Boseman's legacy in this movie, and it's just a movie that by the end you feel something and you feel heavy emotion. And this didn't feel like a Thor: Love and Thunder where they were throwing jokes every single minute or second. They took this movie seriously, and that's what I appreciate about it. Letitia Wright has proved she can hold her own in a movie, and she can drive the entire movie. She's fantastic, along with Angela Bassett, who, if does not get nominated for Best Supporting Actress, I will be shocked. She brought tears to my eyes. She was amazing in this movie. Please give her an Oscar. But like I said, it has a couple of issues with the subplots, but overall, it's a really heartwarming movie, and the action was well done, and Namor is a fantastic villain. And I think this is one of the best. This is probably one of my favorite movies of Phase 4. And it's going to go back and forth between that and No Way Home, obviously. But it has a close shot, to be honest. So yeah, that's why it's in third spot. I almost put it in my number 2. But I landed right here. Could change on rewatches. I've only seen it once, and I'm really excited to see it again. So it might change. Who knows? But in my number 2 is The Menu, and this was just a fantastic time in the theater. Everyone was laughing. The story for this movie is very serious in a way. The story itself is pretty serious, but the tone is kind of this not really satirical look on food, but it definitely has a little bit of a less serious tone than some very serious thrillers would have. But I just found this to be a very entertaining movie. Ralph Fiennes is phenomenal as this chef, and he just gives one of the most chilling performances of the year, along with all the other supporting cast. Anya Taylor-Joy is amazing. Nicholas Hoult is hilarious and just a blast to watch. My only issue with the movie is that I would have wanted more exploration of the other side characters so I could care about them more in the end. Because in the end of the movie, I found myself not really caring about them too much. I just wanted a little bit more just to really satisfy me at the end of the movie. But overall, definitely give this a watch if you have not seen it. I can't recommend it anymore, and it's definitely a great movie, so definitely check it out. But in my number 1 is The Fabelmans. Now, this is not a surprise to me. Even before the movie, I knew I was going to love it. Steven Spielberg is one of my favorite directors of all time. And when I heard he was making a movie about movies and about his childhood, about his real-life experiences growing up, I was on board. And after seeing the movie, this was everything I wanted. It brought tears to my eyes. Michelle Williams, if she doesn't get nominated for Best Actress, I don't know what the world has gone to. She is phenomenal in this movie. But Paul Dano as the father, he's playful, he's charming, but he's also really serious at times when he needs to be. And you see his side of the story and what he's trying to say in the movie. The kid who plays Sammy in the movie, I think his name is Gabriel LaBelle, I think that's it. He does a fantastic job. I really wasn't expecting much from his performance, but he gave a lot more than I was expecting, and it definitely pushed this movie higher up. His performance was amazing. But just the story for this movie, it's just so heartwarming, seeing this kid who's in love with movies and how he uses movies to cope with his life experiences and all the drama in his family and his view on the world compared to his parents' view on the world. I just found it amazing. Judd Hirsch, for what little time he has in the movie, he stole the entire show. He is fantastic in this movie as the uncle. He's just amazing, and I just love this movie. Now, the story's not going to connect to everyone on the same level as it did to me. I know there are some people who just didn't connect to it, and that's fine. But if you're like me, who loves the movies, who loves the art of making movies, definitely give this a watch. It will not disappoint. that is my ranking for all 10 movies I saw in November. Let me know what your ranking is down below. Did I miss any movies? I know I did. There are several movies that I didn't see this month. Let me know what your ranking is down below, and have a great day.